What if the one person who could bring back an entire extinct civilization was also the one who would destroy it? This is the story of Aang, the last Airbender, and the impossible choice that changed everything. Aang greets his old mentor Gyatso and his friend Min Meng on the way. The warmth between them shows how deeply Aang belongs to this place and these people. The old man calls Aang too heavy for eating too many pancakes instead of vegetables. Aang groans but smiles, because lectures about vegetables are part of every lesson Gyatso gives him. But Aang vanishes mid-conversation and wins the race with a playful shout. He dodges through the finish line and pumps his fist, already forgetting the lecture about duty and discipline. Then the story jumps to Aang exploring an old archaeological site with his animal companions. He searches through dusty relics and broken pottery, looking for traces of air traffickers who have been raiding ancient sites across the region. Aang finds an artifact connected to a name from the past, Sonom. The name sends a visible tremor through his whole body. He holds the artifact carefully, as if it might break or vanish. Before he can process it, masked attackers ambush him from the shadows. They move fast and silent, surrounding him before he can react. He fights back and demands to know why they are chasing a person named Sonom. The attackers do not answer. They keep tearing through the ruins with desperate urgency, as if their lives depend on finding what they came for. But the group reveals themselves as the outcasts, non-benders who hate the power benders hold over the world. They see bending not as a gift, but as a system that leaves ordinary people powerless and afraid. Their hatred runs deep, forged by generations of suffering under Bender rule. The attack collapses the ruins around them, and Aang shields the leader from the falling debris. He uses airbending to hold back the crushing weight of stone and wood, putting himself between the leader and death. He saves the life of someone who just tried to end his. Aang survives, but realizes the outcasts took something critical. The map they stole is the only link to Sonom, and whatever power her legend holds. Without it, he is searching blind. The world is built on 4 elements: water, earth, fire, and air. Each element flows through a nation and its people, shaping who they are and how they live. But the responsibility fell to Aang when he was just a child, and he ran away from it. The monks told him he was the avatar too young, before he was ready. Fear and confusion drove him away from the temple, and everyone who loved him. Katara taught him waterbending, Toph trained him in earthbending, and his old enemy Zuko became his firebending teacher. Each one pushed him harder, and believed in him more than he believed in himself. Together, they became more than a team. They became a family. The crowd cheers for the Avatar as the ceremony begins. Aang waves and smiles, but behind his eyes, the weight of being the last Airbender never truly leaves him. She heals his wounds and asks about the outcast attack. Her waterbending glows softly as she works, and Aang explains what happened at the ruins. He describes the masked attackers and their desperation to find the map. She worries that if they would attack the Avatar for a map, they are capable of far worse. The map must point to something powerful enough to justify such a risk. Katara's mind races through the possibilities, and none of them are good. Aang admits that during the attack, he thought his culture might die with him as the last Airbender. The words come out quietly, but they carry a century of loneliness. He has carried this fear since the day he woke up alone in the ice. Aang points out that every nation lives here except his own. Water Tribe members walk the streets. Earth Kingdom families run shops. Fire Nation citizens work beside them. But no Air Nomad children play in the parks. No Airbender monks teach in the schools. His people exist only in memory. Aang accepts this and resolves to learn more about the person named Sonom from the map. If Sonom's legend holds a way to restore airbending, then finding her is not just a quest. It is the answer to the question that has haunted him since he woke from the ice. Roku has never heard of Sonom, but suggests that a past avatar might know more. The line of avatars stretches back thousands of years, and each one carries memories of their own time. Somewhere in that chain, someone must remember a name that echoes this loudly. Shin complains about Aang's webbed toes and dirty nails in a stream of petty insults. Aang stands still and lets the insults wash over him, because arguing with a past avatar is a losing battle he has fought before. Shin recognizes the name and recalls a woman with grotesque toenails from a market. The memory is oddly specific and oddly Shin, but it proves Sonom was real and walked the world in living memory of at least one past avatar. Sonom was an avatar from the golden age of airbenders who carried a legendary staff. The staff was not just a tool, it was a conduit for the spirit world itself, a bridge between realms that gave its bearer access to power beyond any single element. Ong asks if the legend is even real, since many avatars tried and failed to contact Sonom. The spirits grow quiet. The truth is that Sonom vanished so completely that even the avatar line lost track of her. Ong snaps out of meditation and tells Katara about the staff's immense power. His voice is urgent. If the outcasts reach the staff first, they could reshape the world in their image and destroy everything Ong built. He sends a message to gather his old team for the mission. The message flies out on bird and wind alike, carrying one simple request to every corner of the world. Come to me. We have a quest. Meanwhile, in the Southern Water Tribe, Sokka demonstrates his new Suka Course invention. He stands before a crowd of Water Tribe warriors, beaming with pride at the strange machine behind him. The thing looks like a catapult crossed with a sled, and nobody is sure it will work. Toph finds it boring and questions why the Avatar would ally with a non-bender. She sits with her feet up on a rock, pretending not to care about anything. But Toph's indifference is an act. She has always respected Sokka more than she admits. He claims to be more popular than the Avatar, which Toph disputes as a lie. Toph can hear his heartbeat and knows exactly when he is exaggerating. She calls him out without mercy, and Sokka deflates just a little before rallying with renewed confidence. A messenger bird arrives with Ong's call for help about the outcasts and Mount Behu. The bird lands on Sokka's arm, and he reads the message aloud. The room goes quiet. Ong needs them, and that means the situation is serious. He finds a figure frozen deep in the ice, and calls out the name Sonom. The figure is sealed in a block of ancient ice, perfectly preserved. Ong presses his hand against the surface and feels energy pulsing beneath it. This is not just a body. This is a living person trapped between worlds. Then a massive energy surge rumbles through the mountain as the ice cracks open. The ground shakes, and the air fills with a deep hum that vibrates in everyone's chest. Something ancient and powerful is waking up. Katara scolds Ong for running off alone when he was supposed to be gathering a crew. She puts her hands on her hips and fixes him with the look she has been perfecting since they were children. Ong rubs the back of his neck and apologizes, but his eyes never leave the figure in the ice. The group debates whether the stranger is dangerous while he smells Ong from afar. The man tilts his head and breathes in deeply, as if trying to identify something familiar. Ong holds still and lets the stranger sense him, hoping the connection between airbenders will speak louder than fear. The stranger snaps awake and attacks with violent airbending, screaming for the Avatar. The gust hits everyone at once and sends them sliding backward across the ice. His eyes are wild and his movements are raw, driven by centuries of confusion and rage. He introduces himself as the current Avatar, and the stranger realizes Ong knows the name Sonom. The mention of Sonom cuts through the man's fury like a blade. His attacks slow and his breathing changes. The name means something to him that nothing else could. He explains the staff is not a weapon, but a gift that channels the spirit world's power. In Sonom's hands it created, healed, and connected. It was designed to give, not to take. The distinction matters more than anyone yet realizes. Ong realizes that if they find the staff, he can bring airbending back to the entire world. The thought fills him with a hope he has not felt since before the ice. His people could live again, not as memory but as a living, breathing culture. The stranger was the first person she granted this gift to, lifted from a normal life into the sky. He remembers the moment Sonom touched him, and the wind answered for the first time. It changed everything he thought he knew about himself and the world. The stranger reveals the staff is hidden on an island across an endless ocean at the edge of the world. The journey will be dangerous and long, through waters no ship has mapped. But the staff is there, waiting for the right hands to find it. The stranger introduces himself as Taga and accepts Katara's welcome to the group. The name carries weight and history, but Taga offers it simply. He steps forward and joins the circle, and the team becomes one person larger. These paths trace the great air bison who first taught humans how to bend air. The bison flew these routes before people existed, following currents that spiral around the entire world. Every airbender learned from the bison, and every air path remembers them. During the flight, Sokka questions how Appa navigates without instruments. He waves his arms around and asks where the compass is, because flying blind over an endless ocean is not his idea of a good plan. Sokka worries about what happens if the intuition fails or Taga's brain suffered from being frozen. He raises valid concerns in the most annoying possible way. Sokka trusts logic and machines, not feelings and wind spirits. Taga stares at Appa with deep longing, mourning the loss of his own flying bison long ago. His eyes trace Appa's shape with a sadness that goes beyond words. The last time Taga saw a bison, the world was whole and his people filled the sky. While he was gone, the Fire Nation attacked and destroyed his people. He returned to empty temples and silence. Everything he loved was gone because he was not there to protect it. Taga offers to show Aang how powerful their element becomes when airbenders work together. He extends his hand and tells Aang to trust him. What follows changes everything Aang thought he knew about airbending. Aang realizes this shared power is only the beginning of what they can accomplish together. If two airbenders can do this, imagine what a whole sky of them could achieve. The thought fills him with a vision of the future he thought was impossible. They pushed the enemy back to Mount Pahu, where Sonom must have trapped him in an energy ball to save his life. She sealed him away to protect him from something he could not survive. The ice was not a prison but a shield, and the shield has finally broken. Taga warns that fire by nature burns, and that his people have always suffered under other elements. He speaks with a bitterness that surprises Aang. The gentleness Taga showed earlier has an edge underneath it that is starting to show. He adds that Katara, Sokka, Zuko, and Toph are his family now, and he wants a world where they all belong together. His voice softens as he names them. They are the reason he keeps fighting for peace, even when the grief feels heavier than he can carry. But elsewhere the outcasts watch the Fire Nation ship from their own vessel, shocked that the Avatar found allies before them. Their leader grips the railing and stares through a spyglass at the distant ship. The Avatar was supposed to be alone and vulnerable. This changes everything. She declares the outcasts need what the Benders have, power, and orders an attack. The crew readies their weapons with grim focus. They believe they are fighting for justice, not revenge, and that belief makes them dangerous. Taga warns they have reached the eternal storm that guards the edge of the world. The sky ahead is black and churning, a wall of clouds and lightning that stretches from the ocean to the heavens. No ship has ever passed through it and returned. Sokka panics and suggests turning back, but Aang says it is too late for that. The outcasts are right behind them, and the storm is right ahead. Stopping now means being caught between both threats with nowhere to run. Sokka grabs the helm and calls out that he has no idea how to steer a Fire Nation ship. He has spent his career destroying these things, not sailing them. The controls are unfamiliar, and the gauges mean nothing to him. Sokka protests that he has only ever destroyed Fire Nation ships, never steered one. The irony is not lost on him. He grips the wheel and prays to every spirit he can think of. She tells Sokka to follow her lead and work together to keep the ship steady. Her voice cuts through the chaos with calm authority. Sokka nods, swallows his fear, and does exactly what she says. Katara shouts directions to Sokka, who struggles with the helm as the ship spins out of control. Left, right, pull, push. Every command comes just in time to avoid the next disaster. They are operating on instinct and trust, and barely surviving. He insists they push through to the eye of the storm, because the outcasts are still chasing the same prize. If they stop now, the outcasts will reach the staff first and use it as a weapon. Aang cannot let that happen, no matter the risk. Aang and Taga combine their power, and the ship bursts through to clear sky on the other side. The storm falls away behind them like a curtain closing. Ahead, the air is still and bright, and the ocean stretches flat and silver to the horizon. Taga takes the blame and says Aang simply believed in the team's strength. He speaks warmly about Aang's faith in his friends, and the words sound genuine. but Taga has been performing sincerity for a very long time. Taga explains that long ago the lion turtles gave humans the power to bend the elements. Before the lion turtles, no one could bend anything. They were the original source of every fire blast, every water whip, every earth wall and air gust. He tells Ong to contact Sonom's spirit here, because the lion turtle's spiritual energy can bridge the gap. The energy of the lion turtles thins the wall between worlds, making it possible to reach spirits who have been silent for centuries. Ong thanks his friends for the dangerous journey and promises they are on the verge of something world-changing. He looks at each of them and tells them this quest will matter, that everything they have endured is about to mean something. They believe him because they always have. Back on the ship, the crew bickers about repairs, while Sokka jokes about the constant danger and hurricanes. He hammers a bent panel back into place and asks if anyone packed snacks for the spirit world, because spiritual journeys always make him hungry. Toph tells him to be quiet and bend something useful. Taga says everything he does is for Ong's protection. He speaks without turning around, as if talking to the ocean itself. The words sound rehearsed, like a line he has been practicing for a very long time. Taga argues that Katara has never known a world with airbenders, and cannot understand what was lost. His voice rises for the first time. The patience and warmth he has shown the team are cracking, and something harder is showing through. Taga says peace between elements has never existed, and that Republic City is built on lies. The words come out cold and certain. He does not believe in coexistence. He believes in power, and he believes the powerful take what they want. He reveals that saving his people requires sacrifice, and Katara realizes with horror what kind of man he truly is. Every kind word and gentle gesture was a mask. Taga has been planning something from the moment he opened his eyes in the ice. Taga turns on the crew. He shatters the ship's engine with a single blast. The outcast's vessel rises from the fog behind him. Taga has been working with the enemy all along. The entire journey, the friendship, the shared grief with Ong, it was all a performance to get here. Ong snaps out of his meditation and finds his friends missing and the ship destroyed. He stands alone on the island shore, staring at the empty dock and the broken vessel drifting in the water. The silence is the loudest thing he has ever heard. Taga argues the Earth Nation killed his people, and the Fire Nation killed Ong's. So only the staff can build a new air empire strong enough to defend itself. His voice rises with genuine pain. He has carried this anger since before Ong was born, and it has only grown in the ice. Taga demands Ong stand with him and abandon the others. He frames it as loyalty to their people. He tells Ong that no one else can understand what it means to be the last of a civilization, and that duty to the dead outweighs duty to the living. Taga tells Ong that Sonom chose the world over her own people, and it destroyed her. He uses her story as a warning. Compassion, Taga argues, is what made the air nomads weak enough to be wiped out. Ong tries to reach the outcast's ship, but it is already gone. He stands on the shore with his hands empty and his friends taken. The isolation he felt in the ice was nothing compared to this. He tells her the Avatar is dead, and offers to give airbending power to the outcasts to build a new world. It is a lie, but a useful one. With the Avatar supposedly gone, the outcasts believe they have nothing left to fear. Ong wakes up alone in the ruins and blames himself for losing his friends and the staff. He sits on cold stone and stares at nothing. Every decision he made, from the mountain to the storm, led to this moment. It is Avatar Sonom, and Ong tells her that Taga turned against them and stole the staff. He speaks quickly, desperate for answers. He trusted Taga as a brother, and that trust was used against him and everyone he loves. Sonom explains that in her time the air nomads were protectors, who used their power for mediation and nonviolence. They traveled the world resolving conflicts and calming tensions. Bending was a tool for peace, never for war. She learned to draw energy from the spirit world, and gave ordinary people the power of airbending to keep the peace. She believed that if more people could airbend, the world would become safer. The power of air would spread like a shield across every nation. The violence blackened his heart, and he begged Sonom to use the staff to raise an army and destroy all enemies. He wanted revenge, not peace. He wanted to make the world feel the same pain his people had felt. The spirit world's power swallowed his consciousness and turned him into something beyond human, too strong to be killed. He was no longer a man, but a vessel for corrupted energy. Sonom could not stop him by force. Sonom tells Ong he must reach the staff before Taga connects it to the temple. If he fails, Taga will gain unlimited power and start another war. Ong begs her to help him find his way back to his friends. Sonom tells Ong that his friends are alive, but will not stay that way if Taga reaches the staff first. The outcasts are taking them toward the temple as leverage. Ong must move quickly or lose everything. He runs to the shore and finds Katara, Sokka, Zuko, Toph, and Momo all alive. They are wet and shaken but standing. The relief on Katara's face when she sees Ong is the most beautiful thing he has ever witnessed. Ong asks where Appa is and learns Taga took the flying bison. The betrayal cuts deeper than any of the rest. Taga took Ong's oldest companion, the last connection to his original life, to serve his own purpose. Sokka points out that the ship is destroyed and a hurricane surrounds them. He gestures at the wreckage and the storm wall on the horizon and asks the obvious question: how exactly are they supposed to get off this island and stop Taga? Ong says the temple exists in the spirit world, and they are standing on the most spiritually charged place on the planet. The Lion Turtle Island is the one place where the wall between worlds is thin enough to cross without meditation. If anywhere can get them to the temple, it is here. Ong promises the ocean spirit he will fix everything, and his friends agree to do it together. The water around the island begins to glow and rise. The ocean spirit has heard him before, and it hears him now. The team enters the spirit world, and immediately things get very weird for everyone. The colors shift and bend. Gravity changes direction. Nothing behaves the way it should. The spirit world is out of balance, and the distortion is clearly Taga's doing. The sky above them ripples and cracks with dark energy. Taga is already here and already pulling power from the temple. A massive spirit creature appears and greets the humans with chaotic enthusiasm. It towers over them with a body made of ancient spirit matter and a personality that can only be described as overwhelming. The creature inspects Ong closely, checking his eyes, and is sent to confirm he is a real avatar. It sniffs him from head to toe and peers into his eyes with an intensity that makes Ong very uncomfortable. Apparently, being the avatar requires a spiritual smell test, but the creature reveals the mission is to escape and survive, and it tries to run away. The serious moment collapses instantly. The spirit creature has no intention of helping fight a corrupted airbender with unlimited power. It warns everyone not to eat anything stuck in its teeth, because it is saving that for later, which is exactly the kind of hospitality you want from a giant spirit beast. Sokka asks what is stuck in its teeth, and immediately regrets asking. The team arrives above the clouds and sees Republic City sprawled below them. The city is already burning in places. The outcasts have arrived and are spreading through the streets with their new airbending power. Ong demands Taga hand over the staff as the outcasts flood the city behind them. The city streets fill with chaos as ordinary people with new airbending tear through buildings and send civilians running. Ong stands between Taga and the city and will not move, but Ong sees the destruction and knows this is not what he meant. Airbending was supposed to bring peace, not terror. Taga has turned a dream of restoration into a weapon of conquest. Ong fights through the chaos and reaches Taga at the temple. The temple rises above the city, glowing with dark energy. Taga stands at its center with the staff in his hand, and the spirit world pouring through him. Ong pleads with Taga to stop, saying the staff can restore balance and peace if used correctly. He extends his hand the same way he did on the mountain. He is offering Taga one more chance to choose peace over power. Taga shouts that Ong will let their people die for his principles, then attacks with full force. The blast sends Ong skidding backward across the temple floor. Taga is done talking. He believes Ong's compassion is the weakness that let the air nomads be destroyed. Taga mocks Zuko for sitting on a throne built from 100 years of war. He dismisses Zuko's entire identity as Fire Lord with a few cutting words. To Taga, Zuko is just another ruler on a stolen seat. Toph jumps into the fight and reminds everyone she is still the greatest earthbender in the world. She tears pillars from the temple floor and hurls them at the outcast army. The ground shakes with every move she makes. Taga challenges Sokka to prove whether his new bending can defeat simple human skill. He sends a blast of air at Sokka that knocks him off his feet. Sokka gets up, grips his boomerang, and tells Taga that simple human skill is exactly what brought down the Fire Nation fleet. Aang evacuates civilians while trying to reach Taga at the temple core. He carries a child to safety and sends a family toward the docks. Every life he saves is one more reason to end this fight quickly. Taga sneers and asks what Aang plans to do about it. He holds the staff high, and the temple pulses with dark energy. He believes he has already won because he holds the power, and Aang holds nothing but principles. Aang breaks through and grabs the staff from Taga's grip. He lunges forward with everything he has, and his fingers close around the ancient wood. The staff changes hands for the first time in centuries. The staff's energy begins to corrupt and consume Aang as it did to Taga centuries ago. The same darkness that swallowed Taga reaches for Aang now. The power is too vast for any one person to hold without losing themselves. Taga watches with twisted satisfaction and tells Aang to use the staff's full power. He wants Aang to feel what he felt. He wants Aang to understand that the power demands to be used, and that holding back is what made the air nomads weak. But the voice of Sonom speaks to Aang from within the chaos, telling him he will do great things as the Avatar. Her voice cuts through the storm of power like a bell. She has been waiting for this moment, for the Avatar who would face the same choice she once faced. Aang looks at Katara and the others, fighting below, refusing to leave him. He sees Sokka protecting civilians, Toph holding the line, Zuko shielding the weak. These are his people, this is his family, and the staff is about to take him away from them. Aang makes the hardest choice of his life. He raises the staff and snaps it in half over his knee. The spirit energy explodes outward in a blinding wave. The unlimited power vanishes in an instant, and Taga screams as the connection to the spirit world breaks forever. But he tells Taga that protecting their people means holding on to what the air nomads stood for, not betraying everything they believed in. The air nomads valued peace, balance, and freedom. Taga's war would have destroyed all three to save one. He repeats the old saying, "Air nomads are made of fog, walking the world for a fleeting moment before returning to the eternal wind." The words settle over Taga like a blessing. They are not a surrender, but an acceptance that all things pass, and that passing is not the same as ending. Aang falls from the sky without Appa, but Katara catches him with water bending and lowers him safely to the ground. She reaches out with a stream of water and wraps it around him, slowing his fall. He lands in her arms and the team surrounds him, alive and together. He says that is a strength he can pass on to others, and Sonom's spirit thanks him for giving up the power she could not. She appears beside him one last time, her face full of gratitude and relief. She spent centuries haunted by the staff she left behind. Aang did what she never could. Aang tells his friends he does not know if airbending will ever return to the world. The staff is gone. The power it held is gone. The path Sonom used to give bending to ordinary people is closed. He asks who wants to explore an ancient abandoned temple for relics, and the crowd cheers with excitement. The old Aang, the one who raced through temples on a glider, smiles back at them. The adventure is not over. It is just beginning, and there, frozen in the depths, they find something impossible. The original airbenders, preserved and waiting to be found. Row after row of figures stand sealed in ancient ice, their robes and faces untouched by time. Aang reaches out and touches the surface, and the temple fills with the sound of cracking ice. The story is far from over.